coming up. So pumped. Matt McCarthy, a TikTok superstar and transcendent comedian, he just pulled his car into the gas station here on I-95. Thank you so much for listening to the Gas Station Show here and for sharing episodes at liveon95.com. Wow, huge day here at work at the gas station. Matt McCarthy has been in well over 100 TV shows, movies, and popular ad campaigns. Matt has a gigantic group of fans online.
So good to see you.
At McCarthy Redhead. You should watch every one of his fantastic videos at McCarthy Redhead. Not only is he hysterical, he's running a video store out of his home called the Video Garage, and he's been dubbed online the serious, undisputed king of all physical media.
So good to see you.
At McCarthy Redhead. He has almost 1 million tapes in his archive. He's a genius. It's unbelievable. We're going to ask him about all those tapes. And also, Matt was a writer for the WWE, which is, of course, the hugest sports entertainment company in the history of civilization. And since Matt's an old friend of mine, he knows that I actually went to college with, this is true, maybe the greatest wrestler of all time. That's right, everybody. I had the honor of going to college with the single greatest pro wrestler of the 21st century. That's right. Kofi Kingston. Woo! Let's go. Come on. The GOAT. Love you, Kofi. Gotta ask Matt about Kofi Kingston. Love him. Matt McCarthy hosts the most popular podcast on the internet about pro wrestling. It's called We Watch Wrestling, and his co-host on We Watch Wrestling is the legendary Vince Averill from the band Cross Control, who was on another episode of this show. So we are psyched Matt McCarthy is here pumping gas, and we're psyched you're here for a laugh. As always, working a double here, 6 to 6, somewhere on Interstate 95. Thank you for listening to liveon95.com. Big one today. Keep it locked till the top of the hour. The show starts now. My favorite wrestler, as you know this, of all time is Kofi Kingston, because we went to college together.
Right.
Wasn't there a story about how you name dropped me to Kofi one time?
No, he brought it up, actually. This was at WrestleMania 28, and he was sitting, I think, in Gorilla or outside of Gorilla. That's the Gorilla position is the like right behind the curtain where all the TV monitors are and stuff, and the producers.
Dude, you're like right behind the curtain in this Gorilla position at WrestleMania 28. I mean, what's that got to feel like to you? Like it's work at that point, but
it's work. It's surreal, but it's work because it's so funny. Like, you know, like WrestleMania is supposed to be Christmas. It's the culmination of the whole year. But then we're just back in the room like, fuck, we got to do Raw tomorrow night. We got SmackDown on Tuesday. It's just like, it never stops.
Would you have to physically travel too?
Yeah. And that's how Vince started that that Raw after Mania. He's like, oh, great night last night, fellas. But now it's over. What do we got for tonight? But Kofi, it was so funny. I'm walking by and he's like, dude. He's like, you know Greg Johnson? And I'm like, yeah, I fucking love Greg Johnson. We do comedy and hang out. And he's like, he's like, he couldn't, it couldn't compute in his head. Like, he's like, that's so weird for me, man. He's like, that's so weird. It's like imagine some, like, it's again, like, to go full Costanza, it's like worlds colliding. You're just like, this makes no sense. Like, how does someone here know someone there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh man, Kofi, the nicest dude.
He was the best. He's the best. He just had a great match the other night on Raw with Ivar, one of the Viking Raiders. They fucking tore it up. It was unbelievable.
Dude, he really tears it up. And I feel his career is in such another stratosphere. I mean, Hall of Fame, all that.
He's somebody that's just ever reliable. We were at that Mania in New York when he beat Bryan Danielson for the belt. It was huge. It was such a great match. It was like the biggest night of his career. It was fantastic. And it was the peak of that Mania. This is right before COVID. So it's before they split it up over 2 nights. Now they do it over 2 nights. But that was the last, like, literally 7-8 hour show. Brutal. And outdoors in New York, in New Jersey, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Oh, brutal. And it peaked with Kofi. It was just the feel-good moment of the night, and then it's all downhill after that.
Dude, I could talk about Kofi all day with you, dude. I want to talk about your world-famous movie collection and your social media at McCarthy Redhead. And we're recording this on Friday the 13th, Matt. And I know you're a big horror fan. Tonight, not to brag, I'm going to a screening of the 50th anniversary of The Exorcist DVD in 4K. Huge.
You know what's funny is I'm going to Monsterpalooza tomorrow. It's son of Monsterpalooza. It's smaller than the regular Monsterpalooza. And
wait, there's overflow. Like, they have like multiple Monsterpaloozas.
The big one's in the summer. Somehow the smaller one is in like Halloween time. And Linda Blair is going to be there. But like, I don't want like her autograph or anything, but I do want to just say hello because literally a year ago, like last October, I shot a Mint Mobile commercial with her where we're neighbors in the commercial. And I walk out and I pull my phone bill like I have the Brand X phone bill. And I'm so disgusted with it. I start projectile vomiting like the pea soup. And she's my neighbor. She's like, you should get Mint Mobile.
Is that real?
100% real. It's on YouTube right now. Yeah.
Whoa. What was she like?
She was a trip. She was a trip. She was a trip. Like she definitely, it was wild to like really take it in of like, man, like not in a bad way, but like, I don't know what other way to take it, but it definitely felt like she still kind of thought it was like 1982. And it was like, it's like, all right, take it easy. We understand you're Linda Blair, but it's like, you know, she was like, she just walks up to me and she goes, you want to take a picture? But like said it in a way of like, look, I know you're dying to take a picture with me. You want it? Let's do. And I'm like, yeah, I do. You know, I wasn't going to bring it up, but she takes the picture with me. And then she's like, he has no idea what's coming. He has no idea what's coming. As though this internet only Mint Mobile commercial that's going to run this 1 month, like I'm going to wake up and like cover of Variety is, you know, new Hollywood starlet Matt McCarthy. It was interesting.
She's like, get ready to blow up.
For real. She was like, oh, he has no, like she kind of said it to whatever crew guy happened to be standing nearby. She was like, he has no idea what's coming. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm not starring in the biggest horror movie of all time, but I understand we can only speak from our own experience. She was a trip.
I'm blown away. Bro, something I've talked about on my pod is that every movie and TV show nowadays, past 10, 15 years, features vomiting. Did she have like script approval? Like, what an idea. Do you think she's been pitched like that idea?
The one thing that was like she wouldn't do it unless she does some charity for animals, like
For people who vomit. No.
for people who, she does a charity for people who vomit, and she raises money for them. So the deal is like her charity for animals had to be mentioned, and it was like up top. So if you watch the commercial, it's weird because it starts like it's, one of those, hi, I'm Linda Blair. You know me from the blah, blah, blah foundation. And it's like, first of all,
you know me. Yeah.
I'm just known for saving. I'm Linda Blair, well-known animal saver. So it's one of those things where you could, I don't know this firsthand, but you can see the creative people being like, when someone watches this commercial, they're going to think it's for her animal thing, and they're going to either change the channel or not watch the rest of the video or whatever it is. So to avoid that, they put in like almost immediately like a weird like supernatural spooky element, either like the film flares up for a second, or there's like a horror movie voice or something.
It's like, what, Jigsaw.
Yeah, exactly. Jigsaw shows up real quick, and it's just like riding on the back of a dog. Yeah, she was a trip.
Dude, I am totally watching that commercial. I love that she's like, as long as I could talk about my foundation. And then you do the dipsy doodle into the Exorcist vomit scene, Mint Mobile, boom, mint.
Right. Because she sees me vomiting. She's like, been there.
She's like, this kid has no idea.
Oh my God. She's like, look at you. Just fell off the turnip truck from Rhode Island, and you have no idea what's coming.
First night in LA, you just took the Lucky Star, Rhode Island to LA.
Like she pulls the piece of hay I'm chewing on out of my mouth. She's like, look at you. They're going to eat you alive.
Dude, happy Friday the 13th.
Happy Friday the 13th, Greg.
Hey, thanks, man.
Hey, I'm glad to know that you're celebrating.
Bro, I'm glad to know that you're celebrating. I mean, you dig all genres, but you clearly dig horror. I have to set this up, okay? You're the only person I follow on TikTok, okay? You are president, CEO, founder of the Video Garage.
That's right.
You're the owner and operator.
Mm-hmm.
You have seemingly everything on VHS, every format. I'm not saying this lightly. You're the king of all physical media.
Thank you. Thank you for saying what needed to be said.
The Video Garage that you run.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
By the time that we'll air this gas station podcast, and by the way, thank you for being here again. Thank you for coming through.
Yeah, hey, you got decent prices at this gas station. I figured I'd do the podcast as well. 2
birds and 1 stone.
Right. I'm going to grab an orange Gatorade, which is the best flavor, on my way out. Have you tried the Gator Light? It's like Pedialyte, but it's Gatorade. It's specifically for like to hydrate you. It's salty. It tastes salt. You can taste you can really taste the electrolytes.
Yeah, you can taste the C and the protein.
Right.
You can. You're like, oh, different. By the time this show airs, which is wildly popular, you'll have 250,000 followers on TikTok, Matt.
I have no idea what's coming.
Ladies and gentlemen, Linda Blair, and she joins us. No, she's not here. I'm just kidding. But I want to say, here's my first question. Will you ever direct a movie? I mean, you have so much knowledge of cinema. Like, you have the greatest collection of VHS tapes of all time.
That is a dream, and I'm so intimidated by the idea, like, if I'm really being honest, and especially like having been like on like so many different shoots and stuff. I'm like, there's a technical aspect that I don't know anything about, and I would feel I'm so scared to like look dumb, but I mean, I suppose I could go to film school, which would also be super fun, but I could just shoot. I shoot stuff in the garage.
You've made 10,000 TikToks, and you've made 10,000,
Yeah. It's true.
Comedy
I mean,
things for Conan.
it's the idea that like if I just shot something alone on my phone, which is completely a viable option these days. Um,
Yeah, speak to that. Like, we're even
yeah,
past the point now that iPhone is even frowned upon. I mean, iPhone is not only viable, you could just fucking do it and make a sick movie on an iPhone. Sorry,
yeah.
but I know that there's other elements of the crew and the cast that, and the makeup and the lighting that has to come together, obviously. But I'm saying one could shoot on an iPhone, correct?
I did think, why don't I just do enough of these sketches that if I put them together, it would be like a 90-minute movie, like the Whitest Kids did with the Civil War on drugs. That was just that whole season of the show, you know? And then all of a sudden it's like, no, we made a movie.
Yeah, that was great. You could
Yeah.
certainly do that.
Yeah.
You could do that as the Video Garage CEO.
Exactly. Because I have that, because I've built a set in the garage. Like I bought those shelves from like an actual, you know, like a store that sells things to stores. I forget the name of the place, but they cut me a great deal on the on those shelves. And I lucked out. They actually sent some of the wrong shelves. So like I called the guy and I was like, yeah, like, and I'm going through all these boxes and I was like, yeah, these shelves are actually wrong. I need this other kind of shelf. And he's like, all right, well, it's too expensive. It's not worth it for you to send them back. So you can just keep those. So I got extra shelves. So like on the side of the wall, there's like a because we rent this house. So like when we came in, there was just like a fence, part of a gate, like a chain link gate that had been was just sitting on the ground. So I put that in the garage, and now I have the shelves I didn't order jammed in the holes of the. That's what's holding up the shelves. Is the chain link fence on the side. So I have extra shelves, and it just adds to the we're in a garage thing.
I see your videos from there. I'm fascinated because I worked at a video store. I'm
Right.
fascinated. You and I are around the same age. I'm fascinated because, as you and I both know, Quentin Tarantino bought the video store
That's
and
right.
put it in his house. But you did that too. You've done it on such a brilliant level that you're calling the shelf place. Hey, I need the shelves I ordered.
Yeah. You gave me the wrong shelves, guys. And then they're like, we're so sorry, sir. Keep those shelves that you don't need. What's funny too is I'm like picturing this guy on the other end of the phone, like, he's got to be imagining like this is some business. This guy runs a grocery store or something. And I'm like, no, these are just, I'm fucking around in my garage.
Wait, you're decidedly not fucking around now. But the Video Garage, when did that start in earnest? Like your current collection as it is now? I mean, you're going to like estate sales. You're buying stacks online. I mean, did you see that there's buzz on physical media this week because your best friend, your boy, Pete Davidson.
That's right.
He was on a show talking about how he bought like 2,000 VHS tapes. I'm thinking 2,000? Come on, man. That's nothing. That's slim pickings.
It's like those are rookie numbers in this racket. You got to get those numbers up.
What does he think? He's going to get like an OG Rocky for like 10K? How's that go?
I don't know. I don't know what he's talking about that like Rocky just sold for 27. What Rock? Who? Yours? You can get a sealed VHS of Rocky on eBay for $5 right now. I don't know. Like, it's one of these things where you're just like, this is the guy who ruins it for everyone. These are the guys who ruined comic books in the early 90s, and suddenly they become like stock speculators. You know, there's this thing where someone wrote a blog post 10 years ago about the Disney Black Diamond collection. Some moron just went on eBay and saw like, wow, somebody sold a copy of Beauty and the Beast for $40,000. And it's like, do you not see that they're just laundering money? And like I could get that tape at a fucking, but here's the problem. You go to Goodwill now and it's like, it just speaks to how stupid the supply and demand thing is. It's like there's this idea that, oh, we could charge, like I've been at Goodwills where they are charging like $8 or $12 for like a Disney VHS tape. And I'm like, what are you and then there's going to be dummies who like think, oh wow, I'm making an investment. It's fucking Beanie Babies. It's brutal, because then guys like me, because the reason the collection got so big is because the last 20 years it's been so cheap. You know, you can, and there's still places, because I travel the country doing stand up, and it's like there are still places where it's like 5 VHS tapes for $1. And I'm like, okay, now we're talking. Now we're cooking. You know, there's nothing worse than somebody who thinks they know what they have, and it's just like, oh, you're ruining, you ruined it. You ruined it for everybody.
So here's the thing. You probably have what, like over 100,000 tapes, but it's also like the laser discs. Am I right to say that you have the following films on Laserdisc?
Absolutely.
First Wives Club. That's a big one.
I do. I do have
like,
that
here's
on
the deal.
Laserdisc.
Like on your TikTok, there's a brilliant video amongst thousands of brilliant videos where you explain Laserdiscs to people. And not only are they clunky, but you have the Glengarry Glen Ross Laserdisc, and it came with a copy of the play.
That's right. Yeah, it comes with like an actual, like, you know, the little booklet that you would buy at like a bookstore that sells plays to do. And it's got the I guess a couple years ago, only within like the last few years, Shout Factory put out a Blu-ray with these commentary tracks. But for the longest time, since it was released, the only place you could hear Jack Lemmon's commentary track on Glengarry Glen Ross was on the Laserdisc. And at one point, he just starts drinking a milkshake, and you hear him like pulling out the last few sips through the straw, and he just comes back in and he's just like, if you hear a slurping, I just finished a malted. Anyway.
Yeah,
it's amazing. It's like during the Alec Baldwin scene, he's just like pulling down a fucking malted. He calls it a malted. He's so old. Oh, it's tremendous. Yeah, but what's funny is probably the bookcase that I had in Brooklyn that had all the movies, like the wrestling tapes have always been separate from the rest of the movie collection, because it's like it's a whole collection onto its own, you know. But
yeah, when we lived in Brooklyn, where did you store the wrestling?
They were like in a different, it was just they weren't with the regular movies. They weren't in general population. They were they were off to the side in like another, I think I kept them more with the music or something.
Does it go like this? Is it something, is it a version of this where you're like, the house I'm renting now, as soon as I saw it, I knew we could make the garage a video store?
That was one of the thoughts we talked about, because, you know, like you look at what Mark Maron did, and it's like, I wonder if we could turn this garage into a podcast studio, because it's like we have a driveway. We're like, what kind of psycho puts their car in a garage now? It's just, that's not necessary. So the bookcase, that's all the Laserdiscs now. That whole bookcase is just Laserdiscs, which used to house the entire collection, you know, 10 years ago. And then I've continually bought more storage. I've been trimming and pruning. I just got rid of a bunch of DVDs, like going through stuff, and I'm just like, why do I have this?
Dude, wait, you're scaling back? What did it grow to? Like what numbers? Tens of thousands?
I mean, it's got to be somewhere around 10,000 probably, because it's between, because the wrestling, because some of the wrestling I'm like is like DVD-Rs, you know, recordable DVDs. So I just have them all in binders that you used to be able to get at Best Buy. Also, Best Buy announced this week they're not selling physical media anymore starting next year.
What the fuck, man?
Yeah.
Shit,
yep.
yo.
You
Damn,
know,
dude.
Big week in physical media. Pete Davidson blowing up everybody's spot. Best Buy saying we're done.
Baby Monster Palooza's coming up. You know, on this
That's
podcast,
right.
We follow a influencer on the physical media tip called Wet Movie One, Matt.
Wet Movie One, huh?
Yeah, check him out.
I got to get into that.
You might bump into him at Monster Palooza, dude.
Just walking around going, "Wet movie 1."
Dude, someone will know for sure. There's an old wives' tale I've heard that really amuses me that somewhere around like the late 1970s, Martin Scorsese had seen every movie ever made. And I feel like you're some 2000s version of that just because your collection is so extensive and you're such a fucking amazing archivist.
I wonder if that's true. I could see that being true. I could see Scorsese having seen everything. He also says that like the best estimate is that half the movies from before 1950 are just gone. They're just lost forever, which is crazy. Either like, the film deteriorated or was lost, like or, like the first 10 years of the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson got taped over.
No way.
Yeah, it's insane. But I mean, some of the stuff I have, the thing that is my favorite, because there's things in here that I could replace, obviously it's like but the one of a kind items, the tapes taped off TV, like people taping just broadcast television or a movie that aired Sunday afternoon with the commercials. It's just like that.
Commercials, man. I could talk to
Right.
you for hours about the commercials you discover, but go ahead.
Well, I love that because the ephemera of this broadcast once, and also I love the treasure hunt of what's on this tape, watching the whole tape, and then I love the detective work of figuring out what day this aired, what year, and there's always a car commercial, there's always a news report, there's always a new show that's premiering this Wednesday, and you're like, oh, okay, now we know exactly what day of the week this is. And then seeing what they taped over. There's also so much, if the person forgets the recording, they start changing the channel. It's the greatest. Yeah.
You take numbers from the crowd and you pick things at random from your VHS tapes.
Right.
And you picked a Friday the 13th one, and it was somebody bootlegging ET, probably. You knew right away. You said, oh, this is somebody trying to copy ET. And it's the best video because it takes me back to that era. The video quality on ET. I mean, ET is a movie I've seen 1,000 times, but you're getting a different experience, like discovering that, correct? On like a weird labeled VHS.
So many people, I mean, there's a lot of wrestling. People just tape wrestling. And the reason that there is so much wrestling from, some from the late 70s, early 80s only exists because wrestling fans bought VCRs and were taping it and trading it because when it was regional, you didn't see, it was all local television. So you didn't see the Memphis show in Portland. And the story goes that like the wrestler Playboy Buddy Rose, all of the Portland wrestling that exists on videotape is from his actual collection. Like because again, the TV stations weren't saving these tapes. I mean, fuck, NBC taped over Johnny Carson. They're not going to keep, Saturday afternoon wrestling. So it was up to the fans. So like when I go through these tapes, there's a lot of wrestling, a lot of stuff from the 90s. Of course, it's just the pre-DVR, people going out on a Monday night or whatever, and they come home and they taped Raw, or a lot of soap operas. And it's strange too how many people taped PBS, taping an opera or, some random show. And there's kind of nothing more disappointing for me when somebody tapes PBS, because there's nothing to draw from. It's all commercial free. It's all typically kind of boring. There's never
How dare you?
It's some of it's pretty boring. I did find one recently. I need to post it where it was what's the show called? Like In the Mix from 1996, and they are trying so hard to be hip. Like the camera keeps like moving to the side like this, and they're talking and they're just like, 30-year-olds standing in front of a high school just being like, hey, you could feel a lot of pressure to do drugs sometimes. We're going to talk to some high school kids who aren't doing drugs.
Oh, dude, the experience of watching these VHSs with you in your video garage via TikTok or whatever, it's just the greatest because it speaks to the crazy different eras.
Yeah.
What made me think of the Scorsese thing is I feel like at one point you said, oh, well, I now have all the raws, or you were able to figure out that you had most of the wrestling tapes that were relevant from certain decades, correct?
Probably. I mean, like I have at least copies of all the Raws I would want to see, or certainly Nitro wasn't on as long, so that's easier to have all of them. Or like the I have copies of the Coliseum home videos, but the actual see that was when I remember in the mid 2000s when it dawned on me, like it was like an epiphany. I was like, wait, I could be buying old wrestling tapes on eBay. Like, I bet you those are there, and then being like, holy shit. Because that was the thing, like that was pure like nostalgia of like, I have coveted this. Like going to the video store and looking at those tapes, it was like, oh my God, I want to rent all these wrestling tapes. But it's like, but there was also like a pressure at the video store, especially when I was a kid. It's like, no, you get to pick one thing, and it's like, like I want to watch this movie, or like, I'm like, oh God, am I gonna like punch my rental card? Like I get to rent one movie, and I'm like, this wrestling thing, what if it sucks? What if it's
What was the name of your video store?
we had Major Video.
Sick.
Yeah, which was a chain, and then that one turned into a Blockbuster. We also went to, like, there was Acme Video on the east side of Providence. That one was really cool. That was the one with like the weird movies, foreign movies, art house movies, like I think we rented Spike and Mike's Sick and Twisted Animation Festival from there, or
Sick. Were you in the business of ever trying to copy the tapes? Like if you got one wrestling tape, would you ever try to make a copy?
I mean, I remember someone explaining to me like, oh yeah, you can plug a VCR into another VCR. And I was like,
That
holy
tech was
shit.
beyond me. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, it feels like you're like, I'm like an alchemist or something. And then but in New York was great because there was, what was my place? When I lived in the Bronx, when I went to Fordham, there was, what was the name of the video store? Belmont Video was great. That was such a, and this is like the late 90s. So you'd go in there and it's like, that's the kind of place that you could rent random wrestling or UFC, or like they had like Faces of Death, like that type of video store where it's like, or like just random, like B skin flicks, like Friend of the Family, or Friend of the Family was a big one because it wasn't a porn, but we a group of us got together to watch it, and it's about this like au pair who has sex with every member of the family,
Jesus.
And
I don't think I've ever seen that. I got to check that out.
It wasn't a big hit for some reason. I don't know why. And then I should try to track down a copy of that, actually. That'd be funny.
Faces of Death, that's like the original viral movie, right? You could make a comedy sketch meets Faces of Death movie, like we were talking about you directing. I don't know, just a thought.
Because I like going on the hunt and going to estate sales because you get a great deal, because more times than not, they're just like, nobody wants, and it's true, nobody wants these old videotapes. Like it's just me who comes rolling in, and because the thing of it is at the estate sales, everything's for sale. So you find the tapes that are like taped off TV, just like the random used blanks.
Yeah, you're holding up a classic VHS Scotch
VHS tape. You go to a store, they're just selling the releases, like the proper, like I have the Crimson Ghost, like the commercial releases.
Oh, that's where the Misfits got their symbol.
Right.
Yeah, dude, I know what's up.
Crimson Ghost, baby.
I'm hip, dude. I'm cool.
You're so cool. You're so hip and cool.
You're like, I know why I'm friends with you. You're so
But I once
cool.
bought a big box, like a lot of blank tapes off of eBay, because it was a great price and there was some interesting labels, and I'm like, all right, we'll see what's on this. And one of the tapes just had the label on it, said Willie's video mix or Willie's mixtape. I think I still have it. Yeah. Willie's mix video. That's the
And
label.
you're like,
It says,
score.
I'm like, all right, let's see what Willie was up to. And it's the beginning of it is not every, but like more than I was comfortable with. The whole tape made me uncomfortable, but the whole beginning is just all like banned Warner Brothers cartoons that are just horrendously racist.
Wow.
Yeah, like just
Oh
abysmal.
my God.
And then after that is the Gigi Allen documentary, Hated, that
By Todd
yeah,
Phillips.
Todd Phillips, thank you, that he made. And then it was,
Wow. I know that movie.
oh yeah, that movie was a fucking riot. Oh my God. And then after Hated, I realized it's like a Too Hot for TV tape that he had copied. It's all like, it's not Faces of Death, but it's all like news reports and stuff of, car chases where the cops wind up shooting the dude, or footage of people in Pennsylvania will remember, like, R. Bud Dwyer, the politician
Yes.
who called a news conference and then shot himself on like live TV.
Don't Google it.
No, there's one. I was like, what is that? I was like, because it's like, this is what before the internet, there was just tapes. There was just people like I was listening to an old Dana Gould podcast, and he was like, that footage of the comedian with the guitar who hits the guy on the head in the audience, he found that tape. Like, that, he's the reason that got circulated is because Dana was like, you guys have to see this tape.
Amazing. Wow.
Yeah. And it was
Holy
crazy.
shit.
There's one portion in like the Too Hot for TV thing where a dude, he's out in the desert and he's videotaping himself, and it's like his suicide note. This is so sick. But he's just like, I'm gonna blow myself up. And he's like explaining the whole thing. And then he starts, he's like, okay. So then he zooms out and he starts taking off all of his clothes. Like, he's going to blow himself up naked. And as he's taking off his clothes, his shoes kind of get caught on like his pant leg on the cuff. And he's just like, God fucking damn it. And just like, this guy, he's at the end of his rope. He's about to blow himself up. And he's like, God, if it's fucking one thing, it's always fucking something. God fucking.
He like steps on a rake.
And I'm watching it. I'm like, I can't believe this fucking tape. And it was just mixed in with just like YouTube videos and fucking other tapes of just, aliens taped off TV.
Willie's mix.
Once in a while, they'll be like, and it's very people. They always ask in the comments if I ever find like homemade porn, and I'm like, it's just not a thing. Like, it's not like now with everybody's tape and everything they do. Not to say it's not out there, but I'm just like, look, it's mostly soap operas and wrestling. That's what's on these tapes. But once in a while there'll be, I had one tape. It said Transaction. And I'm like trying to Google it. I'm like, what is this movie Transaction? And so I put it in, and it starts like it, and it's obvious that it's a porn. I'm like, okay, this must be about like sex work or something, Transaction. And then I realized, oh, there should be a space between these two words. It's trans action is what we're watching on this tape.
And your wife is like, well, anyway, I got to go do some stuff.
What's so funny is I found a porno tape came in once, and like I put it in. I'm like, all right, but it starts with a couple of like info on the production company, and then they flash their address, and I'm like, oh my god, that's literally 3 blocks away here in Van Nuys.
You're like, I should cruise by.
I should just put this tape in their mailbox. Be like, hey, return to sender, homie.
Yeah, you're like, there are great benefits to living in LA.
Incredible. Yeah.
Dude, it's huge. What was it about VHS culture in the 1990s?
Yeah, I mean, there was just, Girls Gone Wild. There was the bum fight videos. I mean, it was just, I think we had just reached, it was, the millennium was coming. It was the end of the 20th century. It was part of this. We'd reached the end of our rope. It almost made sense with it was like a postmodern mentality of, we've seen everything. And reality TV was starting to kind of become a thing. Like there was, The Real World and that trash. And then we were right on the cusp of having the, celebrity reality shows was about to kick in the early 2000s. And it was just, I think it was part of, we've seen it all. And now it's time for the most extreme element of it, because it was such like trash TV became completely mainstream.
Yeah, very quickly. And it was like we were building to 2000 or something. Like the internet came. Isn't it weird how the internet kind of came like right around 2000?
I think it's also like, when you think of the 70s, like that's when violence really came into movies and like graphic. And so it's like you're coming off of the Vietnam era. I'm sure that there's no small part, even if it was subconscious, like Bill Clinton and the sex scandals, I think also fed into the normalizing of like just raunchiness on TV. There was I don't know. I think it just like all those things probably are connected. I don't know.
I think they are.
Yeah.
If you don't, whether you do or do not direct a movie, would you consider being in my movie if I have one?
Yes.
All right, cool. I'll write one just based on you say yes.
Thank you.
In one of your TikToks, you said there was like a year where you watched a soap. Was it Bold and Beautiful?
I did. There was like a summer, because that's the only one that's a half hour. And so I was like, this feels a little more manageable.
There's like 22,000 episodes of Bold and Beautiful.
Right. But I realized very quickly, I was like, this is just like wrestling, because there's no reruns. There's no off season. And if you just start watching like certain, and like comic books too, where you can dip in and they're starting to wrap up a story you don't really understand, but then new stories are starting. And you can watch them to their beginning, middle, and an end. And so there was a summer where I watched Bold and Beautiful every day, just to have the experience. Just because I was like, I've never watched a soap opera. I've never like understood it, and it's like set in a like a fashion magazine, I think is actually what it is. And so it was interesting too. It was also like having the internet as a guide as well was helpful, of just like, oh, this guy's been on the show since it started, or like this person's new, or this person left, or like, oh, they're related, or it was interesting. It was also like I started collecting Doonesbury collected issues, because that was like the only comic in the newspaper that made no sense. Like you would read Doonesbury and be like, I don't get it.
So naturally you started to collect.
Well, because I was like, one day it dawned on me. I was like, oh wait, I can Google like there's like the internet is a reader's guide for anything now. Like it used to be, you'd buy Ulysses by James Joyce, and it's like, yeah, but you need to get an annotated what's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, you wouldn't even know what Ulysses was about, obviously, not just
Right.
because it's such a weird and complicated book, but because there was no fucking internet. Like, I
There was
love
no
talking to
internet.
you about stuff like that. Like, when you and I first connected and you were teaching me about pro wrestling many years ago, you were like,
Right.
when I was growing up, when wrestling was on TV, it was like a cool surprise to me. I was like, where's this coming from? You know, like that sort of secret society stuff.
Totally. Totally. Like when I started getting back into wrestling like full force in the late 90s, I still have it, a copy of like Wrestling World Who's Who in Wrestling Today. And I remember just studying that, just constantly like reading it and rereading it and trying to memorize who people were and what was happening. And it's funny too, the issue it talked about, it was like explaining who Kane was. This was one of the things that really hit me. Was it was like, once this storyline between him and the Undertaker's over, Kane will probably go away. And then Kane was one of those he wrestled for decades after that, and now he's like mayor of Knox County, Tennessee. It's insane. Like one of the most enduring characters in wrestling.
It wasn't he kayfabe somebody's brother,
He
Undertaker's
was
brother.
Undertaker's little brother. That's what the story was. Yeah. And then cut to like 10 years ago, I wrote one of my favorite things I ever wrote at WWE was Kane doing like a George Costanza monologue explaining the story of his life.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wait, how'd you pitch that to Kane?
Well, Kane was one of those guys. All the writers loved him because he never complained about anything. He never asked questions. You would just hand him a script. He would go off. He would memorize it. He would go out, say it exactly the way it was written. Vince wouldn't yell at you. And it would be great. And everybody bought Kane. So it was like, you don't even have to pitch an idea to him. You're just like, here's what we're doing. He's like, okay, great. Because there are some wrestlers who were like, and God love them. They're like, why would I don't think I would say that. Why would my character do that? And it's like, I don't know. Talk to Vince. This isn't, but
yeah. That's amazing, dude. Costanza.
I was completely like that episode when he's just like, these stories have not been embellished. They are simply the facts of my horrible life.
You had Kane doing that George speech.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
He's like, I was shuffled around to different institutions after my parents were killed in a funeral parlor fire. I've attacked various coworkers, and for reasons never explained, I have an obsession with torturing Pete Rose. It's the best. Yeah.
Yo, one last time I got to give giant respect to Hall of Famer Kofi Kingston for name dropping me to you in gorilla position at WrestleMania 28. I can't believe he is like, yeah, Greg.
He's just like, Greg Johnson? What? Like, I don't even understand this.
I am so impressed by him. What does your family think of the video garage? Like, will there be like a rental system where the physical media is being put to good use, etc.?
I got to put together like, I'm going to make like membership cards, like make little laminated cards. I got to get a lamination machine.
Dude, definitely. I mean, you're going to have 250,000 followers on TikTok by the time this episode of Greg Johnson airs.
We're on our way.
Hey, what was it like when you were on Curb Your Enthusiasm and White Collar?
Those were both, I was like in and out, just did one day. White Collar was fun because I'm like a substitute teacher who's shown up late, and the makeup woman, like it was just a hot day and I was just disheveled anyway, and she comes up to me, she goes, she's about to do anything to me, and she's like, actually, you know what you look like? You look like a guy who's running to work and he's late, so we're not going to even touch you. And the like the scene is like it's a funny. It's not a comedy. It's not a comedy show, but like it has funny moments for sure. And the main star, Matt Bomer, he kept screwing up the takes because I kept making him laugh, which was like,
dude,
you
you're
know,
the funniest.
it's slowing things down, but like it made me feel good because like I just, and I'm just like out of breath and disheveled and just being like, oh God. And he's just like, he couldn't keep it together. So that was fun. Curb Your Enthusiasm was me and Bobby Kelly are heckling Larry and Bill Buckner outside of a baseball card convention. And
no way.
yeah,
and you're from New England. Were you a Red Sox fan?
yeah.
Huge,
I mean,
you're a huge Sox guy. I know.
I've had my moments.
I gotcha.
But the thing was, if we had to meet with Larry Charles, the director of the episode, and Larry David in Larry Charles's trailer before we shot, and Larry Charles was like, everything we do on Curb is improvised, but we're gonna break precedent today. We need to know what you're gonna say to Bill Buckner because this guy has been through so much in his life and post Red Sox career. Like he got death threats after that, World Series.
Yeah, 100%.
And he's like, we cannot cross the line with this guy. And so then it's like four grown adults having like a serious conversation of the most ridiculous thing. Like I'm like, well, how about I'm just gonna say, hey, fuck you. Should I say fuck you? Be like, hey, Buckner, fuck you. How about that? But then and then they're like, okay, that's fine.
Wait, and Larry Charles was the doorman on Seinfeld, I think. And was Larry David there too? Like you're all
Larry
David
was there. Yeah,
you're like walking on eggshells. What can't we say to Buckner?
So now you've got me and Bobby Kelly, and like in between every take, we're just laughing our asses off, like riffing on all the awful shit we're not going to say. Like, so now once you've told us don't say anything awful, we're just giggling, thinking of and we're just out awfuling each other, And then so finally we get to the last take, and I don't know what happened, but Larry Charles just says, all right, say whatever you want. And I can't get the awful things out of my, the camera's rolling, and I can't, my brain just stops working. And they walk by and I go, hey, Buckner, why don't you go fuck your mother? And the people were hands were waving, like Larry Charles is screaming, no, cut. And I'm like, and I'm just trying to stay like professional. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's too much. Let's go again. I'm ready. We'll go again. And like, there was one woman, I don't even know who this woman was, and she just starts screaming, like, what makes you think that that's okay? And I'm like, okay, and I'm just trying to, I'm like, I understand. Now we're just wasting time. We need to, let's go back to one. I'm ready. We can go back to one. I understand.
Yeah, it's like, you're like, we are on the set of Curb Your Enthusiasm, right? Aren't we?
Because I think also in my mind, I'm like, that's like when you call somebody a motherfucker, it's like, I don't know if anybody's really taking that literally, but like, there's a context to that you're like, are you saying I fucked my mom, my own
dude,
mom?
Bill Buckner, that should roll off his back.
So I'm like, hey, go fuck your mother. I'm just like, it doesn't register in my mind. It's just something that some Yahoo. So I was like, and then I turn to Bobby, like finally things settle down and we're gonna go again. And I turn and I just look at Bobby, and he's staring at me, just shaking, like he's been shaking his head the whole time. And I look, and he just goes, what the fuck is wrong with you? And then afterwards, when we wrapped, we're like shaking everyone's hand and thanking. And I go to Larry David, I go, so fuck your mother's too far? All right, I'll remember that next time. And he, to make Larry David laugh was, the highlight of my career. And
He cackled.
he cackled. He's like, yeah, that's too far. Like, oh, all right. Who knew? He's like,
That's
yep.
probably like a day he'll forever remember on the set because Bucky Dent was there. Oh no, I'm sorry.
Like to think so.
Bill Buckner was there.
Bill Buckner was there, but Bucky Dent was there in spirit. We all know.
Bobby Kelly, another probable Red Sox fan, right?
I'd say highly probable, highly likely.
I'd say definite.
We got wired for sound with Bill Buckner, and we're like, "Hey, how's it going?" He's like, "Hey, it's great to meet you guys." And we're like, "We're the guys that are going to be heckling you in the scene." And his demeanor dropped. He's like, "Oh," like it was like, "Oh wow, they're serious." Like he's done with this bullshit, even pretend. And then we couldn't get anything out of him. And then he mentioned where he lives now. And Bobby goes, "Oh, you do any fly fishing up there?" And it was like sprinkling water on a dying flower. He came to, it was like an E.T. made the flower come back to life. He couldn't shut up about fly fishing. It was incredible.
That's amazing. I bet Bobby Kelly was
Bobby from a half court. He's just like, "Hey, you do any fly fishing up there?" And Bill Buckner came to life. "Oh yeah, I got this kind of thing. I got the waders. I got this. I caught this kind of fish. I caught this kind of fish." And I'm just standing there like, wow, saved us.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
So genius, dude.
Doesn't want to talk about baseball, that's for sure.
Fuck no. It's like the last thing. Dude, I can't keep you much longer because I've had you here so long.
I know, my tank's full.
Bro, do you have impressions of having worked for Vince McMahon now? Like, if Vince McMahon one day passes, can we do an emergency pod and you can give some impressions of the man?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, you'll do your pod first, but as soon as you're done recording that, you'll run
I'm
to
right
me.
over here.
Thank you.
I mean, Vince, he's like, "Oh, God, who wrote this? A 4-year-old? Who's responsible for this? God, the only one in the room thinking, guys. Oh, God. Why does what? Like, we had one script where they wanted to go viral. Everybody, we gotta go viral.
That's the idea.
Yeah. We're gonna go viral with this. Yeah. Gonna go viral. Says to the guy, like one of the .com guys, she's like, "Why don't you stand up and explain to the room what an app is?" Tell
How
everyone
many people are in the room?
It depends. I mean, like the production meetings, maybe like 24, because you've got all the writers, but then you also have the producers who are retired wrestlers who, like, any physicality, they have to be there to map it all out. And then the
so like when they like briefly when they're mapping it out, they probably hear it, they put it in their head, and then they have like a convo with the wrestlers.
Exactly. Yep, that's exactly right. And they're like,
you're like, "Were you there, Greg?"
My God, Greg, fly on the wall much? And so we're gonna go viral, and also increase the ticket sales to the house shows. Those are the untelevised events. And they don't sell as well because people want to go to TV because things happen on TV. You get to see the superstars on TV. So they were going to change the tag belts at a house show. And the manager of this team, Rosa Mendez, she's filming herself with her phone. And so in the script, it says Rosa Mendez shoots herself with her phone and is shooting everything, and she shoots them and shoots herself. Vince sees that and he's like, "Guys, you can't have in the script she shoots herself." And now you're in a position where you're like, he doesn't understand what we mean. He doesn't He doesn't understand that, like, I can shoot a picture and I don't have a gun in my hand shooting a picture. But you also can't explain to him that he is wrong. So we're like trying to explain it to him, and he's like, God, I understand. What? What? We can't have she shoots herself in the script. And this is a direct quote. He says, what if the wife of the CEO of Pepsi reads in our script, Rosa Mendez shoots herself? Guys, God damn it. The wife of the CEO of Pepsi has the script for SmackDown in her hand and is appalled to find out that Rosa Mendez is shooting herself with a phone. And then you're just like, all right, we'll change it, boss. We're going to change it. We'll change it right now. God damn it.
Was he entirely like speak when spoken to, or did you ever find yourself in like little side combos with him?
One-on-one, he was great. Like most bullies, like when he's not like showing off to like a room full of people, you could actually like, you know, just he's just a jock. He's just a meathead, you know?
Yeah.
And you could talk to him, but like Triple H, you could you talk to Triple H and you're like, okay, I'm talking to an actual person. Like Vince, there's still like this, like, what are you? You know, because in addition to being a meathead, he's also like rich, so he's in this insane bubble of like one time we were talking about ideas, and he had an idea. This was in the writers' meeting, so it was much smaller. And he goes, guys, I'm telling you, this idea is going to work. I'll bet you a nickel. Wait a minute. Do they even make nickels anymore? Like that's the kind of bubble you're in with Vince. God. Corn dog. What's that? What is a corn dog?
Cartoonish. Didn't you say he likes rare meat?
Oh, he loves it. I once, he would always the production meeting would always start, like, no exaggeration, like 3 hours late. And he would roll in, and then he would have his lunch served to him. Like, it's like we're pushing like 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we haven't eaten anything. And then he has this like filet mignon served to him. And they would always serve it with vegetables, but he would never touch the vegetables, but it would just be there because he'd be upset if it wasn't there. And he'd always be like, oh, God, smells good, doesn't it, guys? And there was one day he ate half of it, and then he just left it sitting there. And some of the arenas are older, so they didn't have like as many rooms or facilities, you know. Like the modern places, there's all conference rooms and meeting rooms and everything. But like you're at the Hampton Coliseum, let's say, there's like almost no rooms in the back. So where the production meeting was also the writer's room. And I remember walking by the Vince table and glancing quickly and thinking I was looking at a piece of red velvet cake. And then I realized, oh my God, that's his fucking steak from earlier. Like, I was like, oh, like that is fucking horrifying how red it was. And like meat continues to cook. Like it was like more well done than it was when he started eating it.
Oh, wow. Good point. Jeez Louise.
Yeah, horrifying.
What happens to his legacy? I mean, like, we won't even speak about the fire he came under the last few years, but I do want to know what your impression is of the fact I have a very low IQ when it comes to sports entertainment, but I believe Vince McMahon's company now merged a little bit with the UFC, correct?
That's right. Now they are both parts of a new company called TKO, which is owned by Endeavor.
Where do you think in Vince's head that puts him? Like, is he all in on TKO? What's the state of the industry?
I think eventually, and probably sooner than later, Vince is going to be phased out entirely.
You're
because
fired.
Oh, gonna fire myself, pal, because he's got a boss now. For the first time ever, for the first time
Yeah.
in over 40 years, Vince McMahon is a boss. He hasn't had a boss since he worked for his dad.
And he bought out his dad to build his empire, right? That's
Right.
part of
Bought,
it.
bought out his dad, bought out the rest of the guys who had a piece of Capital Wrestling, Gorilla Monsoon, Arnold Skull, and maybe somebody else too. But
And
then,
like, did he buy out like a dozen territories or something?
yeah, he bought out Georgia Championship Wrestling from the Briscoe brothers. Had a deal with uh, Stu Hart. Didn't buy Calgary, but like I think he bought the TV from them.
Did you ever go to Stu Hart's house in Canada?
No, Vince, my podcast partner, our friend Vince Averill, went
Yeah.
once with Casey Corbin. It was being torn down. This is obviously years after the Hart family had lived there, and I think the county owned it then. And they were about to go down into the basement, and then some worker there was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! Who are you guys? You're not supposed to be here." But they were inside, and they saw the floor from the dungeon.
The dungeon.
That's what they called the basement. The dungeon was where Stu used to stretch out wrestlers and teach them all these awful holds and basically torture people in his family home.
What was the most stunning occurrence in wrestling when you were a little kid? Like, I mean, Owen Hart obviously comes to mind, but I don't know what you were watching or what scandal really hit the worst.
No, I mean, Owen Hart getting killed was bonkers. The Benoit murder was like, has to be the worst thing that's ever happened in wrestling. But like when I was little and I didn't know anything, just Jimmy Snuka jumping off the steel cage onto Don Morocco, I was like, that's the craziest thing I've ever seen. And then cut to 30, 40 years later, Snuka, it comes out that he probably murdered his girlfriend, and was deemed unfit to stand trial decades later. And then he died not soon after. All of that came
In the
back
last
out.
few years, right?
Yeah. Never mention Jimmy Snuka again. Well, it was one of those things where it's like, it's like when Mick Foley gets thrown off the top of the Hell in a Cell. It's like, okay, I know that I'm watching a show, but that's real, like,
Yeah.
like we didn't just imagine this guy's body flying off the top of this hellacious structure. So the seed of that is Jimmy Snuka jumping off the cage onto, and it's just like in, what's the movie, 24-Hour Party People, where he breaks down everybody that was in the audience at the first Sex Pistols show and how each one of them went on to start their own band. At the Jimmy Snuka jumping off the cage, it was like Mick Foley was there, Tommy Dreamer was there, I think Bubba Ray Dudley, who was, one of the Dudley boys, he was there. Somebody else was there. All these people, all these New York locals, like, that became pro wrestlers, were all at this show.
That's awesome.
It's the craziest. It's. I mean, it's even in this, like, seen everything 1,000 times. That's still, at least for me, I don't know how a modern fan would feel, but it's just, it still stands out as like, this is crazy. He's jumping off the cage onto this dude.
Do you know what year that was, or if it's on YouTube?
I believe it's 83. Yeah, which is great. It's like they probably won't celebrate the 40th anniversary of it because of, probably, most likely, allegedly murdered his girlfriend.
Do you think
the
Vince,
odds
like,
seem bad?
Vince obviously has a new boss, but do you think, given what you know about his fondness or lack thereof for nostalgia, Does he see it as a missed opportunity to celebrate this Jimmy Snuka match? Probably not.
Possibly. I mean, Vince is crazy. You know,
Yeah.
Vince is crazy. Oh God, it's one of the biggest moments in the history of the company.
Bro.
You know, you can't predict what Vince is going to do.
Dude, as an outsider fan, is Vince like super in love with Roman Reigns? Because I'm a little surprised that Roman Reigns has been champion for like 12 years.
Oh yeah. Oh God, he loves him. Absolutely. He's the face of the company. He's the you know, the absolute he's like the golden child, you know? And he's good looking, he's tough, but now it's like now they're in a place where it's like he's negotiated this incredible deal. He doesn't have to show up as much. It's like this thing where the company tries to make the company the star. And it's like, no, the wrestlers need to be the star. And then, but they're like, well, make these wrestlers the star, and then they walk out on you. They want more money. And then it's, well, don't they deserve that? It's interesting. But yeah, my God, does he love Roman Reigns?
Yeah, do small time wrestlers like even get health insurance?
No, it's insane.
And also, like, keeping in mind that you would physically travel with Vince McMahon and all these people, like you were going to kind of smaller cities too. Is that correct?
Put it this way. If we were on the West Coast, Vince, well, we'll put it this way. Vince lives in Greenwich, Connecticut. So if we're on the East Coast, after the shows, Vince would just fly on his private jet back to Greenwich. And we would stay at, some
Vince's house.
Beat up, imagine, piece of shit hotel. But if it was on the West Coast and Vince was going to stay overnight, we would wind up being booked at some like 5-star resort. Like I forget where we were in, like, I want to say San Diego or somewhere. And it was just this like I was like, I feel like I'm cheating on my wife. This hotel is so nice.
So nice.
Like this is insane.
Yeah, you feel guilty because something's so fancy.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my God.
There's so much more I wanted to ask you about. I wanted to ask you about like different directors. Did you see Zach Kreger's movie, Barbarian? Of course you did.
I did, and he's not directing it, but the whole production team, and he's one of the producers on it. The next movie, Companion, I'm in it. We were supposed to start shooting in July, and then we went on strike. Like literally, I went there for my fitting, and then later that afternoon we went on strike.
Oh, you must have been like, because you saw it coming, but it's still like, why has it got to be today?
I know. It was like, God, can I get through the weekend and just shoot my thing and then be done with it? But no. And then it was like, oh, well, because then it was like, well, maybe we can shoot it at the end of November because everything seems good. And then those negotiations broke down this week. And it's like, all right, nope. We'll see. It's crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, you got a tremendous popular podcast. You got 250,000 followers on TikTok. You're going to Monsterpalooza this week. I mean, life is good.
Things are great. Yeah.
And you're the king of all physical media. I see like giant things happening at the video garage. Like Google started in a garage. Apple started in a garage.
Mm-hmm. And now the world's greatest video store.
Everyone's going to check out your TikTok. The randomness and like the awesomeness. What was the deal with the Katey Sagal tape?
I went to an estate sale, bought all the VHS I could find.
And you said you're always alone at these estate sales, but have you ever been to like a packed celebrity estate sale?
Not that I was aware of. Apparently this one was the movie producer Bonnie Bruckheimer, who did most of Bette Midler's movies. These were her tapes. So like, I don't want to find. I'm not looking
That's
to take
sick.
somebody's like home videos, but sometimes families are just like they're not even interested in keeping those. It's like it's on VHS. What am I going to do with this?
Yeah, man, because a subgenre of all this that we didn't even get to talk about is the home movie angle when it's somebody's
Yeah.
personal tapes. And even you spent time at home this summer, you found your own family personal tapes, which is a whole other
Right.
pod.
It's wild. Like my parents documented a kitchen renovation in 1988, and also in the middle of it, it's just our local church like burning down. Like that fire happened that same summer. My dad's out there with the camera, like this is crazy.
He was taping it, right?
Mm-hmm. And so Bonnie Bruckheimer's, I like if I find somebody's home videos, I like digitize it, and if I can find them, I get a hold of them. I'm like, here you go. So there was one tape.
You're like, so oh,
Yeah,
that's
I'm like,
amazing what you just
Yeah.
said. You can't skip over that. Were you on a mission then to locate Bonnie Bruckheimer?
That's what it was. Is there was like there's moments I realized I found a Thanksgiving tape, and through different people saying things, I was like, oh, wait a second. And then I found her daughter, and then got in contact with her, with Bonnie, and was like, okay, I think I know which tapes were yours. If I come across any more family things, I'll let you know. There was one tape that just said garage sale. Because this is the other thing is I come across so many tapes, things get mixed together, or I forget where they came from, or like who gave them. Like people will send me tapes and they're like, hey, did you ever watch that tape? And I'm like, I don't like you gotta like give me a break. I'm not there's no
Watch the tape. You're inundated.
Yeah, I'm like, this is what I do. I'm going to get to it, and then I'm
Dude,
not gonna
can I rep you, Matt? I'm sure you have a team, obviously, but can you consider me to rep like the video store? We'll circle back offline.
See, now we're talking. So there's a videotape that just said garage sale, and then I put it on, and it's just these women sitting in front of a garage sale, and then out of nowhere, just randomly, Katey Sagal, it's probably like 1989, pre-Married with Children, so maybe even earlier than that. Katey Sagal just pulls up in a sports car, and she's playing a demo. Apparently, she recorded demo tracks for Cher, and is just playing this new song that she just laid down, and is just like got her sunglasses on, and is like, isn't this song great? And it couldn't have been more random. And then was in a off-Broadway musical that their social media, they would hand off to a different cast member each week. And the week that this went up, people were like, can you guys confirm that this is Katey Sagal? And then we got a video of her duetting it, being like, yeah, that's me. This is at Bonnie Bruckheimer's old house in, North Hollywood. This is insane. It's crazy.
Fucking amazing, dude. That's fucking awesome.
VHS tapes are magic.
And you are magic. You are the king of VHS. You are the king of all physical media, dude. I'm so happy you came by this gas station, man.
So good to see you. I know, this worked out good. This is the best gas station. I'm gonna grab an orange Gatorade. Thank you, man. This was super fun. Thank you for thinking of me.